Hey everyone, my name is Courtney. It's time to dive into some one-of-a-kind fall DIYs. Let's go. For this project, you will need a canvas. Now you can grab any size canvas that you want. I am using an 8x10. You can pick these up at Dollar Tree. And I'm also using 2 different fabrics. Now, there's other options. I'll share that a little later on once we get to that step. But for now, let's get started. So the first thing is you want to take a piece of fabric. You're going to be covering the actual canvas with a piece of fabric. So cut down a size. It needs to be a little bit bigger than the canvas so that you can also wrap the edges of the canvas. And then this piece of fabric is actually going to go, when we flip the canvas over, inside the canvas. So I'm just pressing it down with my mini press to get out the little creases. And then we're going to start by applying our smaller piece of fabric to the inside of our canvas. Now you want to make sure that your piece of fabric is a little bit bigger than that actual space inside the canvas. It will slide very easily up underneath the canvas frame, no problem. So take some fabric Mod Podge and attach your piece of fabric to the inside of the canvas. You do not need to put Mod Podge on top of the fabric, just get it attached to the canvas with some Mod Podge. Now it's time to take that other piece of fabric and attach it to the canvas. You want to take your Mod Podge and apply it to the canvas along with the sides, and then just make sure you pull it tight and wrap it around. Now the other options that I mentioned earlier, you don't have to put fabric on this part or on the inside of the canvas. You could use scrapbook paper. Just make sure it is a very thin scrapbook paper. It's not a heavy cardstock scrapbook paper. You could also just paint the canvas on the inside and this outside of the canvas as well. And in case you don't know what we're making, it's called an exploding canvas. So once I've got my fabric wrapped around, I'm just going to secure it with a little bit of hot glue, and then we're going to start, exploding the canvas. Now taking a box cutter or a very sharp hobby knife, you want to start making cuts in your canvas. So start in the center and you just want to start cutting. They can be rectangular strips, triangles. Just work from the center of the canvas, cutting all the way until you hit the frame, the wooden frame of that canvas. That's how you'll know that you've made enough strips. So I just went in, once I made that initial cut with my box cutter, then it was easy to get scissors in there and just, like I said, cut willy-nilly strips. Once all of the pieces are cut, and like I said, cut all the way to the wooden frame, like when you're making your cuts, you should either have your scissors hit or the blade hit that frame. That's how you know you've gone far enough. You want to start just rolling these back and then tacking them down with some hot glue. Now, there are so many options here. You could definitely take a little more time to fray the edges of the fabric. And again, like I mentioned, you could use fabric for this. You could use scrapbook paper for this, or you could even paint as well. So I'm just going to take all of my strips and go around just kind of curling them and then securing them to the frame of the canvas with some hot glue. For the printable that's going inside our exploding canvas, I found this gorgeous graphic on Creative Fabrica. I will have everything linked down below in the description box, so just check down there for anything that you are looking for. And I trimmed it up, and what's nice about this is I printed it on cardstock. You definitely want to print it on a sturdy paper. It will slip very nicely on top of the frame and right underneath that fabric. Now, it took me a minute to figure out how to get it in there, but here's the trick. Once you trim it down to the size that you need it, just cut the corners, and then you'll be able to slip this in very easily into the canvas, and now you've got a very unique fall piece to display with your decor.
Young, and we didn't want to be exposed, even though it was cold.
Grab a lantern, and the one thing you want to make sure of, it's something that you can easily take the glass plates out of. I picked this one up on clearance from Hobby Lobby for $3.99. Start by taking out the glass plates. Once those are all removed, then I'm going to take this out to the garage and spray paint it. I want to make it a little more fall, so I'm using some of this Rust-Oleum hammered spray paint to get it coated with a nice fall color. The next thing you'll need is some printable vellum. I just got this in a huge pack from Amazon for pretty cheap. It's linked down below in the description box. And then of course I've got more graphics here from Creative Fabrica that I found. I wasn't quite sure what route I wanted to go. I liked this, I think they called it pumpkin scrapbook paper, and I thought maybe I'd do all 4 sides with that. And then I thought, well, maybe I'll do one pumpkin on each of the sides. And what I ultimately decided to do was 3 of the sides to do the pumpkin scrapbook paper option, and then on the door of the lantern to do one of these pumpkins with all the florals around it. So all I did was take my glass panels and I put them on the vellum, traced around it, and trimmed it down with my Fiskars paper cutter. To get the vellum attached to the glass, I used the Barely art glue just because it has such the tiny little precision tip. Now, the way my lantern was set up, when I put my glass panel in, there's overlap of the lantern on the glass panel. So I knew that when I attached glue to my glass, it wasn't going to show. So that's something you need to look at when you are taking your lantern apart. Is your whole glass sheet going to show? And in that case, you kind of need to be a little more aware of where you're placing glue. But if not, then just make those adjustments as needed. Once the lantern was dry and the glass panels were all good to go, it was time to just stick those back inside. Now, as far as what you put back inside of the lantern, if your vellum is on the inside of your lantern like mine is, do not use an actual fire burning candle. Now, if you placed your vellum on the outside of the lantern, then you certainly could put a real candle in there, but I don't want the vellum to catch on fire and then to have some sort of situation at my house. So fairy lights are going to be a good option. A battery candle will also be a good option to set inside the lantern. To finish it off, you could leave it plain just like this. Of course, you could add florals. I grabbed my bow maker and some fall ribbon that I got from Hobby Lobby and just made a bow to kind of add a little something extra to the top. But this is going to be so gorgeous, especially at night when it just kind of has that frosted glow with all of the pumpkins shining through the lantern.
Wearing proper clothes, always trying to be cool, trying to be those bad guys, smoking cigarettes behind the school. Always trying to be cool, trying to be those bad guys, you know. I still think about what we had when we were younger. We were never running out of time. As long as we had each other, everything was black and white.
You need 2 wooden blocks, different sizes here. I'm just using some 2x4s that I had in my garage. I grabbed some Waverly chalk paint in the color Cashew, and I'm going to be brushing this on there. I'm not going for full coverage. You certainly could if you wanted to. I'm just using the top to kind of help get off the extra paint because that will not be visible once these are displayed. So I'm just going to brush this paint on until I like how it looks. Once the blocks were dry, I grabbed a pencil and sketched on some scarecrow faces. So I made eyes that were kind of teardrop shaped, a triangle nose, and then just a squiggly wiggly line for the mouth on each of these blocks. Then taking some paint markers, I filled in the eyes with black. I did the mouth black and then the nose orange. I did go back and outline the nose and add some little stitch marks to the nose as well as the mouth, and then a little pop of white in the eye just to give it a little extra something. Here are what the scarecrow faces look like. You could add eyelashes to one if you wanted to. Now we need to make the hats and the hair. So taking some raffia, I just took some hot glue and I glued down strips of raffia to the top of the block, making sure that it was kind of long so that I could trim it as needed and shred it as I needed to. Once the pieces of raffia were glued down, I took a piece of burlap and I hot glued it all along the top and wrapped it around. Then I cinched it in and tied off the top. And once that was tied off, I just kind of shredded that top, kind of pulled at it to make it look a little more rustic-y, just pulled some of those loose burlap fibers to get it done. And then this one was finished. I did the same procedure for the second one, except I used a dark brown piece of burlap. I hot glued it around the edge and then again cinched it, tied it off, and just kind of shredded the top of it. And now these two cute scarecrows are ready to go.
Traveling in a car, never knowing how far we go. When we were younger, when we were younger, I remember a girl. I would sneak into her parents' house.
Here's a fun DIY with one of these styrofoam pumpkins from Dollar Tree. So the first step you want to do is pull off that stem, and what we are going to make is a faux quilted pumpkin, kind of like that Christmas ornament that I made at Christmas, well, in July video that was just posted recently. We're going to do that with this pumpkin. So your first step is to take a hobby knife, X-Acto knife, whatever you've got, and I just followed the ridges on the pumpkin. You want to cut into the pumpkin from the top of the pumpkin all the way down. And once I did that, I went back in with my Cricut spatula to kind of make those grooves a little bit deeper. Then I found this cute fall quilted fabric from Hobby Lobby. I got it this year. And I needed to make my pieces of fabric. So for that, you're just making it, I guess, kind of a leaf shape. And what I did is I just measured with a piece of vellum that from the top of the pumpkin to the bottom, marked it, and then I made sure to make the width of it a little bit wider than the actual grooves that are on the pumpkin, because when you go to shove the fabric, you're going to need extra fabric on your pieces. So I cut all of those out. And then I had a suggestion on my last video when I did do that ornament. Someone said, try just doing the fabric one at a time, whereas in that Christmas ornament, I had them all pinned and then just kind of went in and overlapped. So I just did one piece of fabric at a time. It worked great. And I just used my Cricut tool. I'm telling you, that thing is great. I've used it twice now in this video without using it with my Cricut. And I just shoved that fabric in there. I did not add twine to the ridges. You certainly could do that if you wanted to. But once all of the fabric was tucked in, then for the stem, I grabbed 4 of these little wooden rounds from Dollar Tree and glued them together. And then I just took some raffia, tied a bow, hot glued that, and now I've got a faux quilted pumpkin with faux quilted fabric, which I think it is so cute.
And we looked into each other's eyes. Hey, I thought I was Romeo, I was looking for my Juliet. And as soon as I left, I told my friends.
Grab a piece of felt, and what we want to do is cut this into 1-inch strips. So I'm just going to use my rotary cutter and cut it until this entire piece of felt has been cut into strips. Then taking a piece of twine and a needle, I'm going to take my first strip and fold a little piece of it. We're going to do kind of an accordion style here. Run my needle through it. Once I get that run through there, I'm going to take a bead, feed that on, then fold the felt again, run my needle through it, then put on a bead, and continue that process till I end up with it looking like this, 5 little humps. And then I'm going to add another bead and do one more strip of felt the exact same way, where I fold it, run it, put a bead on, fold it, put a bead on, until it's completely attached. Then once both of these are on there, I want to make sure that those loose pieces of felt are connected. So I'm just going to use a little bit of hot glue to get those 2 pieces connected so that it's a nice seamless piece of felt. And once that's finished, then to finish it off, the easiest thing I found was just to take my twine with the needle and run it through that last bead and then squirt some glue in there to kind of hold it in place. And then I just trimmed off the extra piece of twine, and now I'm left with this little circular napkin ring. Now you definitely could use this and turn it into a garland. You could add extra colors. So there's a lot of options here. You could add some little embellishments, a little wooden piece, a pumpkin, other things to it. But for now, I'm just keeping it kind of simple, just something a little different this year for my fall tablescape.
Those days made me who I am. When we were younger, we were never running out of time. As long as we had each other, everything.
That is going to wrap up today's video. Let me know down below which one of these was your favorite project. Also, in an effort to get to know you guys better, here is today's question. I want to know, what TV show do you feel like shouldn't have been canceled or should not have gone off air? For me, it would probably be Friends, because I could continue watching that forever, and This Is Us. So let me know down in the comments your favorite project, and of course, what TV show you wish was still on. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I really do appreciate it. Here are some more videos you might want to check out, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!
Driving